And welcome to The Business. It's another show that's it's the business show that's essential listening for the West Herts business community. I'm here with Roma. Hello,
Hi
Roma.
there.
How's your week been?
It's been very busy, thank you.
Right, and done anything exciting in the business world this week?
Oh, well, not so much this week. Last week I was presenting the Hertfordshire Food Festival Awards with Johnny Seabrook, so that was very exciting.
Our very own Johnny Seabrook.
Our very own Johnny Seabrook.
Radio Verulam's finest. That's great. And also Victoria Scott. How are you, Vicky?
I'm very well indeed, thanks.
Excellent. A good business week for you?
Yeah, it's been very busy, very interesting. Two sort of different ends of the spectrum for me. So I've been very much involved in getting a new fundraising project out for a client in London, and also been very active on this whole abuse area with a client of mine who's got a whole load of varying governmental bodies, police, schools, etc. at a conference to stop abuse. So that's very topical, and thanks to some of the media companies for promoting that for us.
Right. Okay. Let's find out what we've got in this packed show this evening. I'm going to play a little bit of background music just to ease us in. And in another packed edition of our new show, The Business, which is essential listening for the West Herts business community, the show is going to include best-selling business author and enterprise editor of The Telegraph, Rachel Bridge. Analysis of all the local and national business issues with local entrepreneurs Michael Rothwell and Mercury Security. Also Katherine Merriden of Merriden Solicitors, plus top tips and business advice from Andy Parkin of Easy Plan Building Solutions and Trish Schnieder of Sedgeco Services. I don't know quite how we're going to pack it all into 1 hour, guys. But the words "court" and "pot" spring to mind. And do bear in mind that we want to hear your views. Our studio number is 01727 839 926. Twitter, you can get hold of us on at RV The Business. Email thebusiness@radioverulam.com. And also, of course, if you're tuning on the website, but you do live locally, you can, of course, get us on 92.6 FM. I think that's wedged somewhere between Radio 3 and 4, but we, of course, will come clear as a bell if you tune in. But first of all, I want to go look at a few sort of news stories. I was very struck, guys, by George Osborne getting up at the Conservative Party conference, making a bit of a speech, and then saying with a big smile on his face, we're going to, if you want a stake in the firm, you can have a stake in the firm, but we're going to just cut back your employment rights. And I don't know what you feel. I looked at it, and I wasn't really sure what to make of it. I mean, Roma, did you sort of have similar things, or do you feel differently? Or
no, it is a very interesting topic, and in fact, we're going to discuss it in our Let's Talk Business segment, because I'd be very interested in hearing what both Michael Rothwell, who's our first guest on this evening, and Katherine Merriden, sorry. Okay. I was about to say Merriden, think about it also in terms of their opinions as small business owners. Yeah. But yes, extremely topical. I'm going to save my thoughts till later.
Right, okay. Vicky, how do you, you won't be in that part of the discussion. What do you...
Probably just as well, I think.
So come on, just unload the barrels. Come on, tell us about it.
It doesn't seem to make any sense to me whatsoever. I can't see how anybody's really going to see the benefit, to be honest. Anybody that's giving up any rights has got to very, very seriously question that, because that can't be very good for from an employee perspective. And at this time in the economic sort of recession, depression, bathtub, or whatever it is that we're in, the likelihood that people are going to be able to afford to give up rights for a stake in a future that might not be guaranteed seems unlikely. So I don't feel very confident that this is a good idea at all.
Yes, well, I mean, we'll refrain ourselves from having the heated debate, as Mrs. Merton would say, because we've got two sort of real live business people in just to tell us what they think, whether it appeals to them. We might find it's completely different. They may absolutely love it for all.
Sure.
For all
they do.
For all we know. Also. It struck me this week the issue about apprenticeships. We had some news about 3 students from West Herts College have been honoured by the Chartered Institute of Plumbing and Heating Engineers. Jason North, well done Jason, won the Brian Saunders Award for the Outstanding Apprentice, and Sophie Ings was victorious in the category of overall best plumbing student. Now, this is just the hook, if you like, of the story about whether business is really sort of starting to get the hang of apprenticeships. I'm not belittling those businesses that already have big apprenticeship schemes, but for many years, the whole thing of children and parents was to get little Johnny or Jemima off to university, and actually now we're starting perhaps maybe to realise the value of apprenticeships. Roma, I mean, what do you think?
Well, I think I've mentioned previously I worked with apprenticeships at Oaklands College when they were running apprenticeships for IT, and linked them in with a number of businesses in the West Hertfordshire area. It was a very successful scheme. I think there's a lot to be said, given the cost of university and the fact that we have too many graduates in the marketplace, too few jobs, for perhaps looking at an alternative route and going into apprenticeships, which, by the way, you don't have to go into at 16. You can go into apprenticeships at 18 or even post-university.
I had the good fortune this week to talk to one student, a boy called Jamie, who left school at 16 because he just didn't see the point of staying on at school, because he could actually see apprenticeships that were there for him. And I'll just play a little clip. We'll play it again during our discussion as a sort of just to whet the appetite for our studio guests. But it'll be interesting, and maybe we can then move on to Vicky and to get a view on that as well. So here we go.
I just didn't see that me having A-levels to do what I wanted to do was worth 2 years. I thought I could be doing, find an apprenticeship where I could be doing more for those 2 years than... Look, I've learnt more in the last 2 years than I would have at school. 100% more. And kind of the people that stayed on at school were people that kind of, some of them knew what they wanted to do, but most of my year didn't have a clue what they wanted to do, and they were staying on at school because everyone else was.
Yes. Okay. So you weren't. So you thought, I'm not going to be one of the sheep, and I'm actually going to go out and get some practical experience. Because I didn't see that A levels were going to help me do what I wanted to do.
And there he was. I mean, Jamie was just basically saying that that for him there was no point in staying at school. I mean, his story is that he wanted to become a guitar manufacturer himself, so actually his job was in the skilled trades, and he actually ended up getting apprenticeships working with rock bands and with music studios and so on, and now he's moving on, actually being very successful in what he's doing, but a young man with sort of quite a lot of confidence in himself. But I mean, I think there's a lot of people who probably just stay on at school, Vicky, because they're not quite sure what they want to do next.
I think that's absolutely right, and I think it sounds very exciting what he's got into. But I also think there's it doesn't have to be one thing or the other. I think that for some people going into an apprenticeship, if they know exactly what they want to do and they really want to learn skills, that's fantastic. But also, I think there's a role for business to play in helping university students be more valuable to business.
Yes.
So the concept whereby a company would actually take on a student, potentially pay some of their fees in return for some work and some therefore work experience as well, possibly with a guarantee of that student working for them for a couple of years. That works for the company because they don't tend to get much out of a student very early on, but get some feedback after they've been there for a year. The student obviously gets the work experience as well as possibly some of their fees paid. So I think that it works at both ends of the spectrum for not staying on at school or actually going through university, but helping to get work experience and getting some of your fees paid.
Well, I dare say our panellists will have something to say about that as well a bit later. Finally, of course, it was the Good Old Food and Drink Awards since our last show came out, and Roma was guest of, what were you? Were you guest of honour?
Guest of honour. No, the mayor was guest of honour, actually.
Right. Well,
no, Johnny and I were very fortunate. We were asked to actually host the evening, which took place at St Michael's Manor on the evening of the 4th of October. It was described as a glittering ceremony, and it was actually. It was really, really good fun. There was great camaraderie amongst all the businesses, and it's very interesting. Bearing in mind, a lot of those businesses were up against each other for the awards. Everyone everyone clapped everyone else. So it was fantastic. Yes, it was attended by the Mayor of St Albans and City and District, Councillor Eileen Harris, and there was also a raffle actually to raise money for the Mayor's charities, and they raised £600 on the night. £600 for her charities, which are Shelter, Centre 33, and Special Olympics in St Albans.
Right, fantastic.
And it was amazing. Good to see so many really good businesses in the food and drink arena receiving awards.
Right.
A couple of whom were one. I'm not sure whether they have actually won the award. The Pudding Stop were up for a national award, but we haven't heard yet. I think they were nominated. And Makoko received a national award, the Best Spirit Bar Award. So
we better go and check it out later.
Yeah, I think so.
I can never remember what a night at Makoko was like.
Funny that. Yes, neither can I.
I know. We must all go there again sometime.
I think so.
Yeah, and maybe have our Christmas do, which of course listeners you're invited to as well. So just to run down some of the winners on that: Best Local Cafe Bakehouse, local producer Redbourne Berry Mill. Best local pub, Ye Olde Fighting Cocks. Best local bar, Makoko, as you said, Roma. Most family-friendly venue, Inn on the Park. I'll testify to that. That is very family-friendly. Local gem, The Pudding Stop, as you said, national award, hopefully beckoning. Best local restaurant winner, Lussman's. And the Kate Darcy Award, of course, named after Darcy's, I believe, for exceptional customer service, was Lucy Clark from Heaven is a Cupcake. So, a good bunch of awards. I saw St Albans finest, and so a good evening was had by all.
Yeah,
sorry.
And I was going to say, and then I believe the rest of the team were presenting or hosting at the event the following Sunday, last Sunday,
yes.
Where we had the open air cookery demonstrations in St Albans, and I think we had our own Nick Hazel, and Danny was also there. So yeah. Danny from Drive Time. Danny Smith, sorry.
Okay, well, we're not just here to talk about how wonderful all we are.
Oh, sorry,
of course, but because what we're going to do is we're going to have a whole potpourri of guests sort of coming in now, just to basically talk about what's happening in the local sort of business community after these messages.
If you want to get in touch with the business on Radio Verulam, phone us on 01727 839 926 or email thebusiness@radioverulam.com.
Hi, I'm Chris Saunders. Join me on Wednesdays from 7 to 8 for The Gig Guide, playing the best local music in the West Herts area and telling you about the finest places to go to hear it. That's The Gig Guide, Wednesdays at 7 p.m, exclusively on 92.6 FM, Radio Verulam.
You're listening to The Business on Radio Verulam. We're the voice of the local business community on 92.6 FM and on radioverulam.com.
Join me, John Stevenson, every Friday afternoon on Friday Focus, where we interview politicians.
You're the Minister of State for Business Enterprise. One of your key responsibilities is to ensure enterprise has access to finance. So what are you doing to ensure they get it?
Entertainers.
We've managed to catch up with the legendary Buddy Greco.
That happens when you get old. You become legendary.
I've interviewed a lot of people, Toya. Where do I start with you? You're a rock star. You're an actress, you're a songwriter, you're an author, you're a TV presenter.
Well, I just like working.
We deal with disputes. Said now that the money would come out of there if you wanted to do it.
Yes, of course. We welcome this. We'll take this strike off tomorrow if he guarantees us that he's going to carry out the survey. Of course.
He's just said they will.
Talk to the officers.
That's every Friday, 2 till 4.
Radio Verulam Community Partners.
People living with cancer or life-threatening illness can often feel isolated, confused and alone. Grove House in Waverley Road, St Albans leads the way in offering free specialist care and support to patients and their families affected by cancer and life-threatening illness in St Albans, Harpenden and Dacorum. To find out more about their services, or how you can become a volunteer, or make a regular donation, or leave a gift in your will, Phone 01727 731 000 or visit grove-house.org.uk.
For more on Radio Verulam Community Partners, go to radioverulam.com/community partners.
Now, of course, part of what we do on this show is that we like to have top tips and light bulb moments, lots of little tips and advice from real business people out there. And we were delighted to talk to Trish Schnieder from Sajco Services earlier on in the week, and she told us took us on a little tour of her advice for doing great business. And let's hear a little bit about what she's got to say.
Definitely in my line of business, when you're working on a one-to-one basis, it's a word of mouth that works the best for you. I find that if you're on your own working for people on a one-to-one basis, then actually advertising, leaflets and those kind of things just doesn't work. It really is, because you're in such a personal, social space with someone, it's definitely word of mouth, because you've got to know that you're going to be getting on with them and being on the same level. Really, it's really important.
Have you had a really big mistake you'd like to share with us?
Yes, I did. When I first set up and launched Sajco, if you like, as a proper business, I bought myself a brand new computer, printer, a fax machine, the whole lot, really. And that all became very redundant, because when you go to people's places, they've already got all their own equipment anyway, and it all sat there, got very much out of date, became completely useless, and ended up going to the dump because it was that bad.
Have you had any light bulb moments?
Only in as much that I've been kind of amazed, really, at how diverse the tasks people want me to do. I thought literally it was going to be the traditional old-fashioned secretarial services, but actually it just amazes me sometimes that I could actually help them with so many different things. And so now I do actively promote those things, although really what I've done is stumbled into them, because people said you wouldn't be interested in doing, or you couldn't do, could you? And actually there are lots of skills that I used to do, as a matter of fact, that a guy on his own in a little office in the kitchen are absolutely essentials and turn out to be really, really useful to him. So now the light bulb is I actively promote to do those things for people as something I can do. I don't take it as read. I actually advertise them. But yeah, most of them I've stumbled across the people asking me would I be interested in doing.
And a brilliant bit of business luck?
Yes, there was. I did a job for a fella in a very undesirable area locally, and he didn't look the part of a businessman, and I ended up doing some really mundane filing work for him. But because, like I said to you, we were on a social one-to-one basis, we got on like a house on fire. He recommended me to so many people for doing this one bit of work, and the chain reaction was just absolutely incredible. This network of people that for about 5 years completely kept me in business, for all that time on a 5-day, literally 8-hour-day week, and I was literally turning business away because I physically couldn't do anything else, and it was just one tiny bit of filing was all that he wanted, and it turned out he was a very connected fella.
So don't underestimate.
Yeah, and I wasn't doing networking groups back then, so I didn't know anything about networking, but he was.
And there she was. That was thanks to Trish Schnieder from Sajco Services, talking about her top tips, various light bulbs moments, best decisions, worst decisions, all the things that help to sort of go together, which creates what we call experience in business. Now, Vicky, you've got someone with some experience, another entrepreneur in our studio that we've captured for the next sort of 10 minutes or so for an interview. Vicky, tell us about him.
Well, I've just been out on the streets and managed to grab hold of... No, seriously. Let me introduce Michael Rothwell. He's the director of West Herts-based security firm Mercury Security Systems. Now, we're not talking here about big guys in dark suits. Not that type of security. This is very much more high-level security, very specialist area. And I know, Michael, that you've got a whole raft of well-known clients. So first off, if you can tell us a little bit more about how you started and why, that would be a place to kick off.
Well, I've been in the industry since I left school. I did an apprenticeship with a company called Chubb Alarms, And when I was there, they said to me, "This is the best apprenticeship you will do in the industry." I didn't really understand what that meant at the time, but looking back now, it certainly was. It showed me the right way to do what I asked my engineers to do today. So I stayed with that company for about 5 years and moved on to another big player in the industry. So I was 12 years into the industry, and I thought, wow, I don't really want to work for someone else. I want to work for myself. And I went out subcontracting and did quite well. There was some good money to be made at the time, and it went well. And then I joined up with who's my now partner, a business partner, and his name's Ian Harrison. And we set up Mercury Security Systems, and it's very much been grown from the ground upwards. We took it. My first business goal was to not be installing within 3 years, and I did that within just over 2 years. And
it's been growing from strength to strength.
It's grown from strength to strength, and we've got new employees starting tomorrow morning. So I've got to get in bright and early and
find the desk.
Yeah, well, exactly. So we had to move the desks around a little bit because we'd run out of space, and that's fantastic. So we're now so the sort of stuff that we're doing is intruder alarms, access control, CCTV. We do fire alarm systems, which is now going to be the big sort of growth within our company. We're installing them, we maintain them, and what we find is we take a customer on and we keep them for 10 years, and they stay with us because they like our service. I think they realise that we give them value for money. We turn up when we say we're going to turn up, and we communicate with them.
I must say, when I was looking through your website, I noticed that customer service was one of the things that you really specialise in. I mean, dotted throughout the website, there was first-class customer service, transparent support, motivated engineers, more efficient and effective aftercare service. Is customer service one of your key differentiators, do you think?
Yes, it has to be. Yeah, it's quite a saturated market for installing companies in the security industry, and it's very simple for someone to say, well, actually, you know what, guys, you're not doing what you say you're going to do. You're not turning up when you say you're going to turn up. We'll go somewhere else, and that's fine. So we have to be very customer focused. Our engineers, when they walk into the client's premises, whether it's a house, whether it's a hospital, whether it's a school, wherever it is, they've got our name on their shirt, and they've got to be able to present themselves in the best possible light. And if we're not giving them the tools to do that, then what is the customer going to say? What is the engineer's not going to have a good day at work? He's going to go home, thinking, actually, do you know what? I didn't really do the best day. And you really want the staff to be motivated to do the best job they possibly can. And going back to that website, what we wanted to say is a lot. And I'm not going to say that other people are doing it right or wrong, but there's a lot of websites that say, this is what we do. We're good at this, we do that, we do this, we do that. And, that's fine. But, maybe if I read them websites, I'm probably a little bit, you're probably bored after, 30 seconds of reading it. Our website says we're trying to speak directly to that customer, and what does the customer want? And we're answering the customer's questions on our website. And hopefully, I don't know if that brings in work or not, but it gives the right image and the right attitude for everybody else working for us.
Customer service is obviously essential, and that gives you the longevity with a client. How do you pull the clients in the first instance? Because you can't sell, it's very difficult to sell service straight up. You deliver service after you've got the client. So where do you think most of your businesses actually come from?
I guess we're fortunate. And we don't tend to have different customers each time. We're dealing with a lot of building companies, we're dealing with facilities companies, local authorities. We're dealing with schools. So we deal with we're approved Herts County Council installers. So, they're coming to us and saying, "Listen, guys, we know you can do the job. You've done it well in the past. Can you come along and fit this alarm, do these gates, do this fire alarm?" So we're not advertising, and we're getting people coming to us. But having said that, we've got sales guys. We've got 3 sales guys in the company, and when you say about not selling service, it starts from there. The sales guy is going to give the best service possible, because he wants to sell the job and he wants to earn his money and everything else that goes with that. So, and then when it then goes into he sold the job, the paperwork goes into the office, and then when the office get that and they have to deal with that job and get the engineer to site and get the equipment to site, then that's when the customer service comes into it. Because if we're not communicating with our customer, then the customer service levels will go straight down. So it has to be right the way through the business that the salesman must be confident that we can deliver what we say we're going to deliver.
So it's it's at every point then, at every touch point that you have with the customer, whether it's the first call that the salesman makes all the way through to the back office girls or boys. It's about that passion. It's about the obsession of detail that really delivers the end result. You used a word earlier about being fortunate that the business is going well. And I always remember that wonderful Arnold Palmer, I think it was, quote: "The more I practice, the luckier I get." But it does sound as though you really are practicing what you preach in terms of this concept of service, and it's delivering consistent business message, and that's what's helping you grow. What's the market like? I mean, you said you're very busy at the moment. Are you the anomaly? Is the market for security growing at the moment?
We've found that that we've been busy right the way through, except for we had a small period about a year and a half ago where sales the amount of work we was doing dropped. Now, but look at what we're doing today, and we've never been busier. Administratively, we're catching up with the amount of work we've got. Engineering-wise, we're catching up with the amount of work we've got. So, the people I'm speaking to tend to be saying they're busy. I know that, there's supposed to be a recession, and there's probably more intelligent people than me out there who can tell you whether there is one or not. But we're very busy. We're doing a lot of work, and the people I'm talking to are also busy doing a lot of work. So it's pretty promising.
Michael, one question from me is there something in particular, maybe a piece of legislation or a state of factors in terms of your market at the moment that's actually stopping you selling more? The one thing you wish would just sort of disappear or would arrive? Is there something? I'm interested. I know I don't want to dwell on the negative, but because it sounds like you've got a good story sort of going there. But in terms of what would you like to sort of change about your environment, what would that be?
I'm not sure there's something external that could change. Yeah. But internally at Mercury, the part where I was just saying that administratively we're catching up. Yeah. Once we've and we're always growing. We've grown from the ground upwards for 15 years. Yeah. And we're forever getting bigger. And bringing in more people. If us as a company can get all the bits right that we say that we're going to do, then we should be able to deliver a lot more of what we're doing. When you say about the technicalities of the job, the understanding of legislation, they're the bits that I, as a business owner, have to learn as we go along. Yes. Yes. My business is no different to someone else's business. It's all the same, but I'm an engineer. All I've ever done, that's what I was trained at. But for the last 15 years, I've been running a business, and that's very much where my focus is.
Right. Okay.
And Ian, your partner, did you say Ian? Yeah. What was his area of expertise? Is he an engineer as well?
He started off as an engineer, and he quickly went into sales, and that's one of the things that make us, I think, a strong company, because he is very much sales focused. I'm very much technical and customer focused. And that's one of the reasons I think that we've done very well.
Yes, it's an interesting balance, because quite often, small to medium-sized businesses, the start point is a passion for a business and a skill set. Yeah. If you can find people that fill the other gaps, then it's really brilliant. So, where do you see yourself in 5 years' time? Do you imagine that are you going to continue to grow at the same sort of rate?
I used to get asked that question at interviews. Yeah. I suppose it is an interview, but not a job one. So
this is worse than an interview. I'm only joking.
We're not that unpleasant.
Now, in 5 years' time, 10 years' time, we're growing our fire alarm business side of the business. That's going very well. I see us we're already covering the UK in certain aspects. Every day of the week we might be anywhere up to Birmingham, over to Wales, down to Portsmouth. So we're covering a very wide area, and I just see that growing. I think that the fire, I keep harking back to the fire alarm side of it. That's a part of the business that we've not really concentrated enough on, and there we are. And I think that will grow our business very well for the.
Well, we wish you every success with the fire alarm part of the expansion. Do you think you're going to stay in the UK? Do you think you might expand as far as Europe? Or even the Far East?
Yeah, who knows what's going to go? It's a smaller world today, isn't it? And I don't know. I mean, I think there's enough work in the UK at the moment.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, thank you ever so much, Michael. We're going to hear you later on the panel, but thanks to Michael Rothwell from Mercury Security Systems.
Absolutely, and we'll be back after these messages.
If you want to get in touch with the business on Radio Verulam, phone us on 01727 839 926 or email thebusiness@radioverulam.com.
Hi, I'm Chris Saunders. Join me on Wednesdays from 7 to 8 for the Gig Guide, playing the best local music in the West Herts area and telling you about the finest places to go to hear it. That's the Gig Guide, Wednesdays at 7 p.m, exclusively on 92.6 FM, Radio Verulam.
And that was great. That's having Michael Rothwell from Mercury Security in our studio. We're going to move rapidly on now because we're packed show. We said we weren't quite sure whether we'd be able to fit everything in, so I'm going to have to talk fast and think fast. Rachel Bridge is a best-selling author of the book How to Start a Business Without Any Money, which is obviously a very appropriate title at the moment. And she's been telling me all about this in the last week. And like a good entrepreneur she is, she made sure that she got her plug in early. So here we go with the interview.
So I decided, this is my fifth book, and I decided that rather than just talking about how other people had done it, that it was time to actually try and do it myself. I thought it would be an interesting process for me and an interesting process, hopefully, for the readers if I actually started up a business without any money throughout the course of the book. So that's exactly what I did. I called it Entrepreneur Things. You can actually see it at entrepreneurthings.com. It's up and live and running, and you will instantly see, if you look at it, that it sells literally two products. It sells a mug, which says entrepreneur on it in blue and pink, and it sells a bag which says entrepreneur on it in blue and pink. And initially when I launched it, it literally sold the mugs in two colours. And there's a reason for that, because I think it's very, very important that people realise you don't have to start big. You can start really, really small, and you can still grow very, very big if you want to. And the great thing about starting small is it reduces your risk. It costs a lot less money. It really reduces your risk. If things don't work out, it doesn't matter. You didn't sell your house. You didn't sell your car. You didn't give up your job. And I think that's a really, really important message.
So do you think, I mean, the sense of what you're saying is that perhaps through force of circumstance and that the money isn't easy in the way it used to be, that there's this kind of army of small entrepreneurs who are sort of growing up, and some of them will go from little acorns into big oaks, and some of them won't want to go beyond the little acorns. I mean, is there a big upsurge in small business entrepreneurship?
There's a huge upsurge, and I think actually, last year was a record number of businesses starting up, and I think this year is going to even top that. So there's a huge interest, and I think a lot of this is born by the recession. If there aren't the jobs out there, or you're worried about the job you've already got, actually, why not think about how you can start earning money for yourself and perhaps taking a bit more control of your life and doing something that you always wanted? And the wonderful thing about technology is that you don't have to give up the day job to actually start a business. See how it goes. If you keep it small, if it's a disaster, it doesn't matter. You just close it down and keep the job. At least you'll have learned a lot through that process.
Right. And I mean, many of our listeners are, of course, people who are in business, and I mean, maybe you could just if we could start to talk about a few of the aspects in the book. I mean, you cover virtually everything in this book about premises, staff, the website, the stock or service. I mean, what do you think are the key things that people are spending too much money on at the moment? Out of all the sort of lists of things in your books, I mean, for me, it's stuff like if you're not very careful, you could actually sort of spend lots on marketing, for example, and promotion. I mean, but what are your things? I mean, are there things that you look around and see entrepreneurs spending money and think, actually, you don't need to be spending money on that?
Yes, absolutely. And I think you raised a good point there, people who are already running businesses. I wanted this book to have useful advice for them too. So it's not actually just for people who haven't started up. Hopefully there's a lot of useful tips that for people who are already running businesses of ways of actually saving money. I think personally one of the biggest wastes of money is the traditional things of getting business cards and letterheads. You know, I spoke to someone the other day. She said, "Oh, it's great. You know, I'm going to get my printed letterheads." It's like, when do people actually use this anymore? Indeed, when do people actually use business cards? Every time someone gives me a business card, I instantly lose it. And actually, I use that as an example at the beginning of the book. Far better to actually there and then take their email address and send them a quick email. It's in their system instantly. They've got nothing for them to lose. You know, they see you in their inbox. So I think that's a very small example. I think the key thing people waste lots of money on is advertising and promotion. And they think, oh, I need to, you know, pay to take adverts out in newspapers or magazines, or I need to spend a lot on promotion. But actually, you know, social media, things like Twitter and Facebook, and even contacting your local newspaper for them to write about you, there's a lot of things that you can do for free. And even really simple things that I love. You know, I occasionally drive around and see cars that have got the name of the business on the back with a website. You know, if you don't run a business, stick your website on the back of your car. You know, it costs you no money at all. You know, wear a T-shirt with a website on it. It's amazing how very, very easy and cheap it is to promote your business. Even when I meet people, I meet a lot of small businesses at conferences and events. You know, tell people about your business. Tell them what it does. People are very shy about coming forward and telling people, this is what I do.
Yes, and is this? Are we talking here? I mean, obviously there are lots of tactics and things like that you talk about in your book, but are we talking here about mindset? That what you're doing is telling people that actually, although you say it's about business without any money, I mean, you have to spend a little bit of money, but it's about spending as little money as possible, because there's lots of good free stuff out there. So it's a mindset thing.
It's definitely a mindset, and I think it's important to start from the point of actually, do I need to spend any money on things? Yes. Rather than starting from the other end. I actually spoke to a bank manager recently who said she has people coming in saying, well, obviously I'm going to need you know, £100,000 to spend on marketing and promotion, and she goes, why? You know, really? I don't think so. You know, it's that idea that actually you don't need to spend any money. Obviously you can choose to, you know, and I think somebody who sort of sets out to literally spend nothing, that's going to be a bit silly, because, you know, you could spend more time trying to save money than you are actually building up your business. But I think it's very important to realise there are very many free things out there that can promote your business. Just to give you one example, a woman called Kate Jenkins, who is in the book, she makes chocolate brownies. She lives in a cottage in Wales, and she has basically grown her business entirely through Twitter. Absolutely free. She tweets about 50 times a day. She's built up a real loyal following. Many celebrities following her now and buying her brownies. It's absolutely brilliant. You couldn't have done that 5-10 years ago.
Yeah. In many ways, I'll have the good entrepreneurial folk of St Albans and surrounding community screaming at me at this, but is the recession, in a funny sort of way, a good thing, because it's made people focus on what's important? That there's this horrible external thing called a recession or depression or whatever you want to call it going on out there, but actually what you need to do is don't worry about the things you can't control or moan about them, and just adapt. And if adapting means being spendthrift, then so be it.
Well, I don't think recession can ever be described as being a good thing, but certainly I think what it has done is meant that people are focusing on what is important to their business, and customers are focusing on it as well. So customers no longer expect, if indeed they ever did, you know, flashy offices or, you know, swanky company cars or, you know, glittery and that, and not only do they not expect it, they don't want it. Customers want to see a business that's really running itself quite leanly and not wasting their money on unnecessary stuff. So it's a great opportunity to really strip back a business to the essentials. What is important? Good customer service is always vital, and it's free. There's no cost for being nice to people and attending to their needs. And obviously, selling a good product and service is vital. All the rest of it is just sort of stuff that you can actually strip back.
Yes, so it's as in many businesses say, it's all about focus, and this is no different in terms of how you spend money or not. It's a lovely book. I really recommend it to listeners. How to Start a Business Without Any Money, by Rachel Bridge. In all good bookshops, Rachel?
That's right, and on Amazon. Thank you very much indeed.
Right, okay, pleasure. Rachel Bridge, author and consultant. Thank you very much for your time.
And there she went, off into the distance. Rachel Bridge, author of How to Start a Business Without Any Money. Now we're on to our next slot.
So we're on to our Let's Talk Business segment, where we debate the issues. So every other week we'll be debating the big business issues. This week we've got Katherine Merriden of Merriden Solicitors, who's actually our first Twitter guest. Merriden's is a growing practice with biggest family law department in Hertfordshire, I understand. So first of all, welcome to you, Katherine.
Hello.
Good to have you on Radio Verulam.
Thank you very much.
Are you excited?
No, not really. I'm quite nervous.
And in fact, when Katherine came in earlier, we looked at each other and instantly realised we knew each other from the past. I'll let you all wonder about that one. And we're very pleased to welcome back Michael Rothwell, Managing Director of Mercury Security Systems, who we heard from in our case study segment earlier. So welcome back, Michael. You didn't run away then.
Hello again. No, the doors are locked.
The doors are locked and he's tied to the chair. Okay, so in terms of our first story, I want to return to the George Osborne story, which at the top of the hour Trevor mentioned. You might all be aware that at the Tory Party conference last week, George Osborne, in his Conservative conference speech, said that the shares that workers gave up, if workers would like to choose to do so, they could opt out of their individual employment rights in exchange for company shares. Those shares would be exempt from capital gains tax, and essentially it would be an opportunity for growing businesses, particularly startups that don't necessarily have access to a great deal of capital, to give shares in the value of between 2,000 and 50,000 to employees. And as I say, the only issue being that they would have to give up any employment rights. So things like cover for unfair dismissal and redundancy, the right to request flexible working and time off for training, mothers giving 8 weeks notice of the date they were returning to work from maternity leave. Those are the kinds of things that he was suggesting people should give up. There was a suggestion that it was along the lines of the John Lewis model, although as I understand, John Lewis do not ask their staff to give up their employment rights. So first of all, Katherine, your thoughts?
Well, our firm has a lot of flexible working in place, and in fact out of the 16 employees we only have 3 members who work full-time. And so I'm quite concerned about the prospect of paying somebody to give up their right to work flexibly. I think flexible working is a very profitable and sensible thing to do, and I'm very disappointed that the government seemed to be offering an incentive for people to give up that right.
There does seem to be a sort of an inbuilt assumption that there's something bad about flexible working, that somehow it doesn't improve productivity.
Yeah, and that's exactly the impression I was given from this debate, and I think that's a very backward way of thinking. Yeah. With due respect to the Chancellor of the Exchequer.
Well, we've yet to get more detail on exactly how he thinks it will work. Michael, what are your thoughts?
I think we need to know a bit more about what he's actually saying, what he's offering here, or what he's saying we should be offering as business owners. And to give, I'm not sure if my staff would want to take on the bits that he's offering. I'm not sure if they would want a stake in my business. albeit they're all stakeholders anyway. And then there's too many questions. There's too many questions that with what you said here. It's almost like, here's this big line, this is what we're going to do. Well, how are you going to do it? And I looked through all the papers today, and I went through Google and to see what people were saying. And it's just confusion, mass confusion. No one really understands what it means, and it's almost like he's thrown that line into the ring and said, right, go and work it out yourselves, because I honestly don't know what he wants to do about it.
Well, there is a suggestion, again, sort of doing a bit of research myself, there's been a suggestion that actually this idea was mooted some time ago by someone else. I couldn't actually find who it was that had suggested it, but it was slapped down quite quickly by Vince Cable. And it's I think it will be interesting to see how this pans out and why they've chosen to bring this into the conversation as far as SMEs are concerned. He did seem quite adamant that it was a very good way potentially for small startups to be able to bring staff on board and still afford to be able to do so. You mentioned briefly there, Michael, this the issue of, you know, a shareholder, stakeholder. You mentioned that your staff are very much stakeholders in the business.
That's right.
You've then got this the other perspective of shareholder investment. I mean, again, giving away a share of your business, how do you feel about that?
I don't think that's really the route I would want to take. I read something today about this being a bit of a niche product, and it was probably more for technology type companies where that's probably they probably do this kind of thing anyway. But for someone like us, you know, I don't see that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't want to boo-hoo it or be dismissive. But from what I understand it is at the moment, I don't really see how it can work for our business.
One of the things I was surprised about was when they said it was suitable for start-up businesses, because from our business, when we do valuations as part of a divorce, it's a minefield trying to work out a valuation, and quite how you'd value a start-up business that hasn't even started and has no goodwill to attribute a £2,000 shareholding. I just don't understand how that would work at all.
And that's always the difficulty with valuing a business, isn't it?
Exactly.
And when we come to looking at businesses being valued for sale even, there's a whole issue around that. So yes, an interesting one, and one that I think will still continue to bubble along and develop. We'll see where that one goes.
So the upshot seems to be that we're all kind of quite confused and sort of and vague about what's actually been decided about, also whether it's practical or logical. George, we need more details. I think that's what we need to. I think that's what we need to say to the Chancellor.
Perhaps you can get him in next week.
Yeah. he's a big fan of the show. Yeah.
Try twittering him.
Yes. I will. Yes.
Exactly. He could be the next Twitter guest. Okay, so then to our second item, which is around late payments to SMEs, small and medium-sized enterprises. There's been a study, again, looking at how late payment of bills and services impacts on small business. Less than a year ago, in November 2011, UK small businesses were owed a record £33.6 billion in overdue payments. By July of this year, that figure's risen again to £35.3 billion. Now, interestingly, this was something that was tackled last year by government. Companies had the option of signing up to the Be Fair, Pay on Time campaign, which encouraged businesses to pay promptly, particularly when it came to small business owners. And BACS, the payment service, conducted some research to look at the impact and whether things have changed. Now, clearly they haven't, if the figure's still going up. It's a huge issue, of course, because it impacts on cash flow and time taken up in chasing debt, particularly for a small business. Katherine, what's your thoughts?
We are a firm where most of our bills are paid for by private individuals, and that's a big strain, and we recognise that. And so we try to bill regularly and try and keep the cost low, but inevitably we do have problems with late payment of bills. We've currently taken on a person just to deal with the credit control side of things, and all we can do is keep the lines of communication open with us and our clients. If they're facing payment difficulties, we try and accommodate that. And likewise, when we're purchasing things ourselves, if if it's a large bill and I've got outstanding fees due, I just pick up the phone and speak to them. And then I expect the same from my bank manager as well. And I think that's the key to most of this. If you have an understanding bank manager who can help you with cash flow issues, that helps too.
Yeah, okay. Michael?
I think it's a major problem, cash flow and overdue payments. And we've had these problems from day one. And we find... it's okay saying this is what we're going to do, let's all sign up to this one, and before we're supposed to be paying on 30 days, otherwise you can start incurring fines and everything else. But until the big companies start buying into this, and I say big companies because maybe someone looks at me and say they're bigger than me, but until the big companies all buy into this and they start paying, we all agree, everyone should pay on 30 days, and that is that. Then fine, but it doesn't work like that, and it is caused nothing but aggravation. And as Katherine just said, she has to take someone on, employ someone to get your bills paid. This is crazy. It just doesn't make any sense.
It does impact on. You're adding on to your bottom line again, aren't you? By your overhead, by bringing someone on to have to deal with it. As you rightly say, Michael, it's craziness having to employ someone to chase debt. You also mentioned the larger companies, and interestingly, again, the Be Fair Pay on Time campaign approached 10 FTSE companies to get them to sign up to the prompt payment code. And again, the studies showed that out of that 75 of them were asked to sign up. Out of that 75, 10 of them signed up to the code. 5 of them refused to. And then 60 of them didn't bother even responding. So worryingly, the largest offenders were the largest companies. Of the worst offenders, government did feature in there, but they were the least of the worst offenders, if that makes any sense. So, it is a huge issue. What they're finding is that this 30-day payment is extending beyond 43, 45, up to 90 days, and for a small business it's a potentially huge issue.
I think it's all to do with the communication, and that's how the big companies get away with it, because if you're not talking to Philip in accounts, you're just talking to the large accounts corporation, there's not the personal relationship, and your bill gets put to the bottom of the pile.
Yeah. And you mentioned, Katherine, that you've got a particular process. One thing I didn't ask you, Michael, was how do you deal with it? Clearly you're a successful business. You've got a handle on your cash flow. How do you maintain that success?
What we really want is the good scare tactics that you can use to
send in the heavies.
Get you away. Send in the metaphorical heavies. Yeah.
I'm not as big as I sound. One of the things when the recession first started, one of the things we very much picked up on was that we had to chase our debt, and we literally started phoning them up much more. Enthusiastically, and you just got to keep pestering them, really. And if you phone up and so if you phone up at the end of the job when you put the invoice in, have you got our invoice? Yes, we have. Great. When you, just confirming when you're going to pay that. That's the date you're going to pay. Okay, so phone them back 3 days before that date. Right, you've told me you're going to pay them back on the 18th. Is that still going to happen? There's a delay. It hasn't been signed off. Okay, who do we need to... And you have to chase it all the way, and you get pushed from pillars. Oh, by the way, can you send me back for the invoice through again? You get all the excuses, but you just have to keep persevering. And
Katherine, as we move up towards the hour, do you put on your steely lawyer's voice in order to chase the payments if you're getting on the phone yourself?
Well, I try not to, because they are my clients, and
you have to be nice to them.
Well, but I have a relationship with them, so as long as they keep the lines of communication, I try to be as accommodating as possible.
Right. Okay. That's all we've got time for on the business. The hour has rushed by, and I'd like to thank my guests, Katherine Merriden and Michael Rothwell, and also from Roma, Vicky and myself. It's good night.
You've been listening to The Business on Radio Verulam. If there's anything in the show you want to talk to us about, phone us on 01727 839 926.